It's great to be here. I am thrilled because I am a swimmer and currently still swim, so I'm excited about that. But what I am questioning is my slot right before dinner. I'm not so sure about that slot, but we'll work with it. Thank you very much for the introduction. I come to you from Rockville Montgomery Swim Club in Maryland and then Indiana University. And I know there was a Boilermaker here earlier, but the Hoosiers are back. So I have to shout out to a former coach, Kim Holmes, in the back. I was at IU when Doc Councilman retired, and then had Chet Tiskrumsky as my coach, as well as Jill Circle. So some really cool experiences at Indiana as a swimmer. But who am I, and can I talk about sponsorships? So I've mentioned a little bit about what I am as a swimmer, but I have been in the sports marketing industry for 20 plus years. I spent 15 years at Coke. I spent some time at an agency, most recently at Bauer Find. Bauer Find I should probably share because I went from a company that is known around the world, Coca-Cola, to Bauer Find where people can't pronounce it. So it's been a little bit of an interesting dynamic. Bauer Find is an athletic brace and support company. We actually are at the Olympics. We are in the medical center. We are the brace of choice for the Olympic Games. And we are a world-renowned kind of product, and it's a premium brand. But it has not been something that is consumer-friendly. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, is working with them to make it consumer-friendly. But I'm here today as the other side. I am the company that gets all the proposals that is submitted by you guys. So I am from the other side. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what my thoughts are on kind of how to help you get in front of people and talk about sponsorships. I have negotiated, I don't like to count because then I know how old I am, but I've negotiated, well, triple digits as far as deals go. I've looked at thousands of proposals, and a lot of proposals go in the garbage, and there's a lot of good reasons why. So I want to talk you through some of the different things. I know it's not easy when you're a small business and that's not your mainstay. That's not what you do. So hopefully I can demystify some of those things and answer some questions. The picture I have here is myself with LeBron James, who's the tall one. I don't know if you figured that out. I don't know if anybody knows who the other guy is in the tuxedo on the other side. Jay-Z. So I picked this photo because, for one thing, I signed LeBron to a contract prior to him ever playing an NBA game. Very scary moment in my career, because who knows if he was going to materialize. It's really easy in hindsight to say, wow, that was a great move. At the time, it was very, very scary and very nerve-wracking. But this picture is of a program that I used to do with LeBron, Sprite, and Jay-Z. It was around the NBA All-Star Game, and it was about partnerships and relationships. And that it was really about true relationships that matter. And that those things, when you have a partnership that is based in a good relationship, you would never not have that relationship, if that makes sense. So I think you're going to hear some similar themes that you've heard. But for me, sponsorship is a partnership. It's an exchange of value. Each side gets something of value. And you can determine that for you, it may not seem like a high value, but to the person who you're giving it to, it is. It's something that they don't have. It's something that they need. It is definitely an exchange. And sometimes these exchanges can be lopsided. And that's when problems happen. You definitely don't want a lopsided partnership. I was talking about it earlier, there's some, news of different partners suing their sponsors not paying and things like that. That comes from a place of not true partnership, not really having an understanding of what each side is looking for or wants. So it's really important to think about partnerships in a unique and different way. One key thing I want you guys to understand is that partnerships are not donations. And there are going to be donations and that you would get. And I recommend, in my opinion, to separate those. There's donations that are straight donations. People want to be a good corporate person, or they want to support a local business and they want to give you money and it's a tax write-off. That's fabulous. Take it. But it's not a partnership if there's not a value exchange, okay? And Coming from somewhere like the Coca-Cola company, we were often referred to as the big red bank. I never found the big red bank. I never had the keys to the checkbook. I almost never had any money. But the fact of the matter is I could develop partnerships where there was a good exchange, okay? And so it was always a turnoff when somebody just said it was my corporate duty. The fact of the matter is that unfortunately my duty was to make money for shareholders. I have to sell Coke. I have to sell athletic braces. And I have to do that to keep my job. And if I don't keep it. So it's really kind of important to keep those two things separate and keep those in mind. So where can you find partnerships? And I think there's been some great ideas around here. I think it's important to keep, it's not that far. The partnerships are not that far from where you are. And they may be right in front of your eyes and you just don't realize it. I would say one thing that, somebody mentioned earlier, and steal, borrow, man. Look around at other people. Who are other people talking to in the community? And, take some ideas. Think about different partners that your kids are going to. Do your kids come into practice and they're all, drinking a smoothie? Where'd they get the smoothie? Is it right down the street? Is there a pizzeria around the corner that you guys could have functions at that you go to on a regular basis? Think of all these options that are really within eyesight for you, right around the corner. What is the most important thing? The most important step is reaching out, having a conversation. Having a conversation prior to sending them a proposal. And this is one of these things that is very hard, and sometimes people don't want to take this advice, but listen to what it is that the sponsor or potential sponsor needs. Don't assume that you know. I worked at the Coca-Cola company. I would get proposals all the time for awareness. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what the #1 word is around the world. Does anybody know what the #1 word is around the world? It's okay. Okay, that's the #1 kind of understanding. Coca-Cola is #2. Do you think the Coca-Cola company needs awareness? Maybe not, right? I mean, if that's the #2 word around the world, then most people do not have a lack of awareness that there's a brand called Coca-Cola. So coming in with a proposal about awareness is kind of pointless for me. It was of no value to me. So I say that, and I kind of am harsh about that because I get a ton of those kind of proposals all the time. People don't slow down to go faster. You need to really think and listen and hear what people need. A great question to ask a potential business, what keeps you up at night? Think about what that is. What keeps you up? You're a business owner. What is it? Is it, people coming into your store? Is it increasing the basket? So in a grocery store, you have your grocery cart. Grocery stores want you to buy more. Okay, that's different than getting people in the door. So those are different objectives. Those are different things that they're looking for from their marketing partners or their marketing activities. At Bauerfeind, it was interesting because I did need awareness, but I can't afford to just do awareness. I'm a growing business in the US on the consumer side. I couldn't have programs that only talked about awareness. I needed to sell as well. So every company, every business has a different take on what that is and what their needs are. And if you spend the time to listen and talk to these folks, they'll tell you. Keep in mind, you just talked about LinkedIn and getting to know the right person. It doesn't require an hour conversation. It could be a quick coffee. It could be going in there, and being a customer and talking to them, trying to find out who the right person is. It can be a phone call. It can be a lot of different things, but it's important to keep in mind that you are listening. Because one of the other things that I tend to have experience is I have people come in and present their property, and I never say a word. So they want to fill the dead air, and they're just going to keep talking to me about how great they are. And I've never spoken. So it's really important, right? The old adage, you have one mouth and 2 ears. So use the 2 ears. Listen, ask questions, go in with a plan, and find out what it is that they need from you. And then you kind of come back and start to say, okay, what is it that they need and what can I offer to them? My next piece of advice is to think big, but start small. So what does that mean? There is a ton of different ways. And again, we've talked a little bit about that today. There's a ton of different ways you can think about partnerships. You can think about it organically growing. You can think about it growing from a place of value. You can value exchange. You can think about different cash things and different cash layouts that you have. Is that a trade that you can do instead of paying that cash? One of the things I used to offer when I was at Coke, and I was always kind of disappointed that people didn't take me up on it, is I would say to you, hey, I'll donate 1,000 cases of Coke. You turn around and sell it, straight profit. You know, there's different ideas that you can come up with. You know, you might have a concession stand. You have a local grocery store. You know, hey, donate the food for me. I will then promote that you've donated this food, and I'll make the money off the food. And some of that stuff seems basic, but some of it's very, very turnkey and easy for, you know, clubs and different sizes to do, businesses to do. The other thing is that when you think big but start small, and we talked about the partner who has a partner for 35 years. You know, I think that was by far the longest partnership, which is very impressive. But if you think about a partnership starting small and growing, and you just continue to kind of develop these win-win partnerships, I think that that is where you will find a long-standing partnership. You'll find that you have gotten to a core of what they need and solved a problem for them, if that makes sense. So, and you know, please feel free to stop me at any time and ask questions, because I do not mind being interrupted. And the view up here is way different than in the back. Anyway, so you know, definitely don't think about going in and getting that six-figure sponsorship. Some of the best partnerships that I have done over the years are value exchange, you know, truly coming from a place where it's a win-win. And I stress that because it is not the norm. Unfortunately, is not the norm. It's most of the time it's about, hey, I need X number of dollars. I mentioned my partnership with LeBron. The interesting story about that was that LeBron was a hot commodity, okay? You know, everybody kind of wanted this guy, this national phenom, and Coca-Cola is historic for not paying the most. And we had a meeting with his agents in New York City, and they came in and totally distracted. You know, and you can tell when people walk in and they're just not interested in having this meeting. And they were not interested in having this meeting because they knew we were not going to pay the most money. But we went in and we talked about marketing, and we talked about what we could do for LeBron that nobody else could do. We were the NBA sponsor with Sprite. Sprite was a long-standing sponsor of the NBA. We had unique assets to offer to him, and the conversation changed. And somewhere in there, all of a sudden, they took out their earphones and they started listening to what we had to say. And it was really kind of exciting. The bottom line is, I paid him less than he could have gotten from my chief competitor. But it was because I spoke something that they wanted. They wanted to truly market LeBron for the long term. And in hindsight, you can see, LeBron is not about just the quick dollar. He's about the long play. He's all about kind of thinking about outside. He has businesses outside of basketball. And that really struck a chord with him and his team. And that's why we won that partnership, is because we were speaking to something that they really wanted and needed from us. And it was a true partnership that still lasts today. So definitely think about what it is they want and try to provide that to them. Be creative. So I've mentioned a couple of these things. I mean, it is the fun thing that you guys have is you're talking swimming. You know, we're up here talking about fun, and it should be fun. And most partners want to do something that is in the realm of having some fun, being a part of a sport, being somewhere connecting to happy times. You know, there's a lot of, you know, sometimes tough times around and difficult discussions happening, but you want to be a part of the fun. So make it fun, be creative, think up different things. There's definitely, I loved when Susan was talking about the you know, recruiting party. That sounded really interesting to me. There's a unique piece about that becomes even a networking thing for local businesses. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can leverage different events that you guys do, that you guys take. I don't want to say you guys as general terms. But what happens to a lot of us is that we forget that we've done this event every year. You kind of forget how cool it might be to somebody who's never done it, never been a part of it, never had the access to the great athletes that you guys have access to, never been a part of a team. And what does that mean? Make them a part of your team in that local community. That's something that is extremely powerful and can go a long way in serving their business as well as yours. The other thing about being creative is it allows you a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things. We talked about value for value. We talked about cost offsets. We talked about, off the wall kind of things. Think about a different tact, that might, I'm trying to think of an example that's happened recently, but, I think about the, swim jitsu and partnering with the local pizza guy and, kind of creating an event for that local market that is like nothing else, okay? It's different, it's unique, and even though you guys have seen it, the people in your community probably have not. So it's all about being creative and being different and trying to think outside the box. And partners will appreciate that. Once you do have a partnership, or once you do start to have kind of this relationship, it's really important that you talk and you have some feedback. One of the worst things can happen is that you develop a partnership, you have this partnership, and then you never speak again. And that would be a killer, right? You need to constantly communicate. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy to have a partnership, okay? It's definitely easier to have the donation. The donation's easier, you get the money, you walk away, and it's done. This partnership is one where you both can win in the long term, but it does take, some effort. It takes some time. It does require you to have this discussion and relationship back and forth. And so this represents this conversation that you constantly should be having with them. It shouldn't just be one way. It shouldn't just be sending them updates. It should be a true conversation about, hey, what did you like about that? What could we do different? And brainstorm a little bit on different things that you can improve on. And the ideas can come from anybody. One of the things that I would suggest to you, especially as I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're smarter than me, or at least they think they are, involve your swimmers. They have some creative ideas. And I tell you what, these students are very intuitive, and branding and marketing is not foreign to them. They are very brand savvy. They are very savvy about marketing, and they know they're being marketed to. They don't mind it when it makes sense and it fits their lifestyle. And I would implore them to utilize that. Encourage them to come up with different ideas. Encourage them to go out and come up with a partner that they want to approach. It would be a great educational process for them, but kind of a unique opportunity for the student, your swimmers, to have experience. And they are closer to some of the things that you want to understand about where those swimmers are going. Your swimmers are your target market. You have swimmers and you have parents. So it's really important to dabble into both of those groups. And they are a big resource for you to constantly tap into. So I would definitely recommend doing that. But I want you to make sure you think about this loop that is a constant loop back and forth between the partnership and yourself. And it includes updates, it includes sharing with them the results. And we've had some discussion about results. And let me just say that is something that is a challenge. That's, a challenge for me, always kind of communicating back to my company why a partnership works or why it doesn't. But if you have the healthy conversation up front about what it is that they want to get out of it, measurement becomes easier. So, for example, several years ago, Coca-Cola took over the sponsorship of NASCAR. Pepsi had been the sponsor for 49 years, and so it was a very big deal within Coke to take the sponsorship. We were very excited about it, and we did a ton. We had new vending machines, we had point of sale, and one of the benefits that we did not anticipate but became a critical point of measurement was engagement with our system. These guys, when I say system, I'm saying the bottlers, the guys who put the product on the shelf. They were proud, because they were NASCAR fans, to put the stuff up that we gave them, whether it was point of sale, whether it was stand-ups, whether it was vending machines. They were really excited. So that became a measurement within the Coca-Cola company on programs. It became, hey, is this going to be something that the system is excited to do? And even if we didn't sell one more case in the store, it was a win for the Coca-Cola company because the system got engaged and was excited. And that's part of the battle, is keeping those guys engaged and focused. So think about different things that might be important, whether it's engagement for a pizzeria, whether it's getting more people in the door, whether it's increasing and getting them to sell dessert, whether it's, they have a new menu item and you're going to focus on that. So think about those different things as opportunities for you to think about and then measure back. But if you have that healthy conversation, it will come through to you in the end. Okay, pitfalls. All right, so some of the pitfalls that I have seen through my years is assuming, making assumptions. We talked a little bit about this, but it happens all the time. Making assumptions about what it is that the person on the other side needs from you. That is a killer. It just means to me that you haven't done any research or that you don't really care about what it is that I need. A cookie cutter program. And I think this was mentioned earlier, I can tell when there is a standard soft drink category. It has these standard things, and it talks about, you're the official soft drink. It's just very obvious that it's not a custom program. It's very standard. And that if I say no, you'll turn around and try to sell it to my competitor. Think about the brand. Think about who you're talking to and try to understand, what differences would be required. So, for example, Pepsi and Coke are very, very different. And if you look at their advertising, they act differently. They go about their business differently. So when you think about how I might approach those two people, you want customized programs. You want it to be something that makes sense for the Coca-Cola company or the Pepsi company. So think about how they might, you could look at different advertisements of potential partners doing. You could look at what their Facebook page, how they talk. All of those things are a factor into customizing the program to them specifically. Try to avoid the threat of competitors. And, if you don't take it, I'm going to go to your chief competitor. That really is kind of an uncomfortable situation. And I typically am willing to call them for you because that just rubs people the wrong way. It's really not a good tactic anymore in these days. And so I would just say at all costs, try to avoid kind of that pitting the you against their chief competitor. It also doesn't play well that, hey, I've had some great conversations with Pepsi. Even if it's not a threat, it sounds like a threat to me. So I would say please avoid those because those are just usually does not get your partnership or your relationship onto a good start. And most of these people you're approaching, make sure you realize they're a business. Okay, and we talked a little bit about this. I mean, they are a business and they need to keep making money to keep open, to be open and stay a business. So appreciate what they are going to give you and appreciate what they are going to possibly offer to you because it is not, there is no free money anymore. There is no, this is just, easy for me to give you this, $500. It is very difficult to secure those dollars. They have to make sense for their business. And if you go in that, appreciating that from the start, you'll be ahead of most of the people that walk in the door to sell them something.